everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
But the real question is which Tara is here with us today? Is this Monday? Is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? Is it Thursday?
Do we want to reveal what day we're recording?
It looks like Thursday, Tara. And yet, we're recording this on a Tuesday, so I'm confused.
This is my Thursday shirt. Trying to throw you off.
Yeah, we're a science fiction movie podcast. We get together, we've watched a sci-fi movie, we talk about it, and we, try and analyze it a little bit, maybe talk about some of the good qualities, the bad qualities, and generally have a silly time. That's the idea of this show. That's what we do. And this episode is actually a Patreon vote winner every month at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Our $5 and up patrons get to vote between 4 films that we'll do on an episode. All 4 of these, in this case, were all Netflix original or exclusive movies that came out that came out in the last couple of years. And What Happened to Monday was the winner. And this is a film starring Noomi Rapace, as well as a few other people. I mean, Willem Dafoe's in there, you got Glenn Close, there's a few other faces that pop up.
Is that how you say her last name?
Rapace? Yeah.
Rapace?
Well, I think so. At least that's what I settled on somewhere like 8 years ago, and I've just been going with it ever since.
Okay. I've just been saying it very literal, like Noomi Rapace, but
I don't think it's that. But
okay.
I mean, I could be wrong.
She's like Swedish, right?
Yeah, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think it's Rapace or Rapace.
Okay.
But
I don't know.
Someone in the comments is going to be like, "Nah, he's wrong. It's just Rapace." That's very possible, but I think it's just, I think when I first saw her name, I think probably because she was in the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, that's where she kind of first became a name, that trilogy. I think when I first saw her name, I thought in my head Rapace, and went, no, that sounds stupid, it has to be something else. So, we'll see. So she plays a character. Now, what's so funny about this is what I was thinking is because the opening of the movie, and we're starting spoiler free, by the way, we'll give you a warning before we get to spoilers. But the start of the movie, the first 5 minutes is like a sort of prologue montage explaining the world that we're in, this future. I was going to say post-apocalyptic. It's not post-apocalyptic. It's a dystopian future where because there's too many people on the planet, resources are just dwindling, and it's actually creating more natural disasters because of climate change and all these things. And their plan is to limit everyone to one child. No one's allowed to have more than one kid. And this was making me chuckle because in April, it was April's when they all went out. In April, we had a movie called ZPG, which was a film with a very similar premise that it banned children at all. For 30 years, there was no kids. And we had a debate in that episode where I said, surely the less severe version of this is everyone's allowed one kid, so they all get to be parents, and they don't have that. They've satisfied their urge. They've had their kid, right? They're filling that part of their life where they feel the need to be parents, but we are still limiting. There's no families of 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, and so on.
Yep. What happens if there's twins?
That's a good question. And that's kind of the premise of this movie, because what happens if there's twins, or in the case of the main characters, what happens if there's septuplets? Because this is what this is. And Willem Dafoe, who's the grandfather of the little girl or the 7 little girls who are born, basically trains them to share the same identity, so that they all go out one day a week. So privately they're named Monday through Sunday, but they all played, or they all are this woman. What was the woman's name again?
Karen Setman.
Karen, that was it. There wasn't enough racist rants from her, I thought, to be a realistic Karen, but I'll let that slide. That was a solid topical joke. So
Poor Karens. If we have any fans that are Karens, know that it's just a meme.
Oh sure, yes. I'm sure there's many a nice person named Karen, but unfortunately your name has been adopted to symbolize the middle-aged white woman who always demands to speak to the manager. You may be the last generation of Karens, yes. Yes. We've ruined the name for everyone. But yeah, so that's the premise, and of course the title would imply that something happens to Monday, and that's kind of the inciting incident that really gets the plot going. And the other 6 have to try and figure out, where did she go, what happened, where did she come from, where did she go, Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? I'm sorry, I thought of it as I was saying that.
Hey, I'm a bluegrass fan here, so I'm okay with that.
So yeah, that's the gist of it. So I guess I will ask Tara the question: did you enjoy what happened to Monday?
Well, it is a Netflix film, so I have an automatic bias going in. But actually, it's not that bad. I think it's really, really strong because of Noomi Rapace's performance. I mean, she is like 90% of the film. The other actors that are in the film are like barely 10 minutes.
I feel like, well, that's the thing. Yeah, she's playing like 7 roles, so she has like her screen time is like off the charts in terms of the amount she's taken up. But I think I think just to avoid the awkwardness of trying to say her last name, I think we're all friends here. I think Noomi and us are on first name basis. You can just call her Noomi. Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna bring her name up a lot because I would bring up her character name, but she plays all of them. So. But I think, I think her performance is like, because she does have 7 distinct characters that she's playing. They all have different, personalities, and some of them to an extreme. Like, why does the nerd have to wear glasses and none of the other ones do? I thought they were all identical. I don't know. Whatever.
They are. It's an identity thing. There's no prescription lenses in there. They're just
I'm the nerd, so I have to wear glasses, even when I'm a child.
It's Power Rangers rules, okay? They have to wear the colors of their Zord.
Yeah,
right?
I was thinking Power Rangers are like they could have their own band, because they're all kind of different Spice Girls. There's like the sporty one.
No, I think Power Rangers is a good example, actually, because they all formed to make Karen. Karen's their Megazord.
But honestly, it's not bad. It's not great. There are a couple of things, especially towards the end. It's like, really, they're getting away with that. But at the same time, it's a pretty fun watch. It's very bloody. It's bloodier than I was expecting. Mm-hmm. And there's some like sexual content that I wasn't expecting also. And it's like, wow, this really showing a lot.
Numi's very comfortable with her body, because it's not the first time I've seen her take her clothes off in a movie. She's very comfortable just going for it.
Yeah, and we applaud her for it. But it's, I don't know, the movie went places I didn't expect. I think I just wasn't expecting like an R film like this.
Yeah, that's it.
It's real bloody too.
Willem Dafoe's in this movie though, and I've definitely seen more of him in another film. So just,
I've not watched Antichrist.
That's it though. I don't actually think it's his penis in that movie. I think it's a stunt penis, but well, actually, I should be more specific. I think it's a.
What is that movie?
It's a prosthetic. Is it? Let's just say, I don't think anyone was going to be willing to let what happens to his penis in that movie happen to their penis, no matter how much they care about their art. All right. Just put that there. Tara's mind's just racing with the possibilities.
Just had to move around a little bit.
Yeah. The final word on Antichrist, right, just for anyone who's curious, is that no matter how bad it is what happens to his penis, what happens to the other person's vagina is worse.
Alright, I'm not watching it.
I don't recommend it. Not if you're squeamish, I'll say that. It's actually a really well made movie. Lars von Trier, that man knows how to shoot a movie.
Yep.
He knows how to shoot a movie, but also,
Okay. Yeah, well, this movie is surprisingly gory.
Yes. It's not as gory as Antichrist.
Okay. Your point has been made.
Okay. Everything else is tame. Like everything else may as well be Sesame Street once you start comparing it to Antichrist.
I mean, if you compare any Willem Dafoe film to this, then yeah.
So what you're saying is I should be comparing Aquaman to this, not Antichrist.
I forgot that he was in that film. That movie is garbage. But The Lighthouse, or what was the one that he did with Greg Kinnear? Can't remember the name of it.
I don't know.
There's a lot of masturbation in that one too.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Are we just bringing up Willem Dafoe movies where his penis is involved? Is that...
I mean, I already hate this review.
This was a path. This was a path that I don't think we'd had to go down. Okay, so to rewind this a little bit. Yes, it's a bit more... I mean, I was expecting the violence, I guess. I wasn't necessarily... Well, I wasn't necessarily expecting... I wasn't not expecting it either. The sex content... I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, there's one scene. There's one kind of raunchy scene. But it's not... Like... It's not even like it's that raunchy compared to some other movies. It's just that when it cuts to it, because it just cuts to this like really erotic shot, and you're just kind of like, you did this for this movie?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Noomi. Power to you. If you
There's
really
still
go
something about it that I think movies just on Netflix. Like, this is a good movie, I'll say that, but they just look bad, you know? There's like shots of Glenn Close of her like, I don't know, in like a room with people in it, and I'm like, why does this movie look bad? Like, I've seen this same footage before in Minority Report had like a similar scene, and you're like, but it looks good in Minority Report, and in here it just looks bad.
It's kind of a... Yeah, I can't say it's true for every Netflix movie. I think part of it is that, movies...
No, I would say there are exceptions. Like, I haven't seen Roma, but I'm sure that's an exception.
Yeah, Roma's an obvious exception to that.
I've seen Beast of No Nation. That was incredible. But
yeah, and I've heard The Five Bloods, which just came out recently, is also, like, more of a quality movie. It's not Netflix caliber.
Right. But the ones that were up for a vote, I'm pretty sure I'll have this similar thing.
Well, I think part of it is that so many movies are just shooting on digital now, and like the cinematographers, are just kind of doing what's safe, right? They're just doing, and they all end up looking kind of like just TV shows as opposed to movies, and this, I'd say, somewhat falls into that category. I mean, I never said what I thought of it because Tara hogged the conversation and started talking about Willem Dafoe's penis. Like,
I did not.
Yes.
Actually.
You know what you did.
Roll back the tapes.
So no, I actually also thought it was not bad. Like, it's not like right home to mum and say, hey, I saw this great new sci-fi movie that everyone must see, but it's a very solid, dependable little, like, this is the sort of thing that would be like, this was like 20 years ago. It's like, yeah, rent this from the video store, rent it for a weekend and watch it with something else, or in this day and age, stream it because it's on Netflix, and it's always going to be on Netflix because it's a Netflix movie. But it is very watchable, and I think every time I thought it was about to go into that really boring, mundane Netflix quality, which a lot of Netflix movies do. I mean, check out our review of I Am Mother for which I think is the only Netflix movie I've actually done before this one. Which is why I've been like making a point of putting more on the schedule, because Tara keeps dodging them. She thinks she's Neo in the Matrix, is dodging in slow motion all these Netflix movies. And I'm like, nope.
I don't want him.
Well, we have to take the good with the bad. This is the bad with the good. You know what I meant? Like, this is reviewing 101, is you must suffer through shite as well as watch good.
But that's
movies.
what Screams After Midnight is for.
There's bad sci-fi movies. Do you know what's going to happen, Tara? See, if we just keep doing the more notable and good movies, is we're going to use them all up, and then we're going to have nothing but bad movies forever.
Well, then the show will be over.
No, it won't be. We're going to suffer through all the bad stuff.
Fine. It's fine. I mean, luckily this one was not so bad.
Yes, no, this one's not bad. Obviously you get a good cast. A bigger cast. I really just mean Noomi. But
well, yeah, Glenn Close and Willem Dafoe are pretty big names.
They're big names and they're dependable. Well, I think Willem Dafoe's dependent. I think Glenn Close is not a bad actress by any means, but I think her character in this probably suffers from being the most cliche and therefore is the least interesting to watch.
She's just filmed horribly too. Like, she has this horrible wig in the beginning that looks so bad. Like, we need to de-age her. Just put a wig on her with longer hair.
Yeah, but it doesn't... Because this is the thing. It's not just like a little bit earlier. This is before Noomi's born, and they make a point of saying that she's 30, in the movie.
Yeah.
So this has been over 30 years and she looks like she's the same age. Like, no, 30 years is the difference between 10 and 40. or on the other end, 40 and 70.
Yeah. Well, I won't say what happens at the end because obviously we're not in spoiler section, but like one of Glenn Close's big scenes is at the end of the film, and that whole scene looked bad. Like, and she was filmed bad in it. Like, and the people that they use in the crowd are all these like models, like super beautiful 20-year-old model women, and like these hipster guys with these long beards. Like, what is this crowd that she's talking to?
This is the 1% of 2075 or whatever year it is.
It's such a strange
build
setting.
me a visual. You've said that she's shot poorly, right? Give me a visual here. So it's a picture in your head towards the end of the movie. What's wrong with her face?
It's like a
and the room around her. I suppose it's not just her, but
it's almost like not the movie Wing Commander, but the video games Wing Commander would have these cutscenes where they would use real actors like Malcolm McDowell and Mark Hamill, and there was always something about it that looked off, and even though it's technically a filmed cutscene, and there's something that reminds me of that when I watch this.
Okay, so we're not talking green screen here. We're talking just like poor lighting that makes it look like it's just a stage.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, yeah. I mean, I saw it, so I know what you're talking about. But I'm trying to build a visual for the audience here. So no, but I think actually there's surprisingly a couple of pretty good action sequences in this that I found myself kind of into. The music's not particularly notable for the most part, but there is a couple of standout moments, particularly when it gets emotional. There's like a nice little sort of emotional theme that plays. I thought that worked in a couple of scenes, so fair play to that. Yeah,
Noomi sure does know how to do the single tear like really, really well.
7 times to be precise.
Yeah, she's great at it.
Yeah, and it kind of goes in directions that I didn't necessarily expect in some ways. Because one of my complaints that I thought I was going to have about halfway through is that the mystery of what happened to Monday, I actually felt like it was solved quite early, and I thought, that's weird that feels like it's done and gone. But it kind of spun it back round and made it more relevant again later in the movie. So it was like, okay, no, it is worth titling your movie that. Because it kind of felt like, well, I can't really say too much without spoiling things, but by the time we sort of like have Tuesday kind of investigate stuff a little bit, it felt relatively conclusive to a point.
Yeah, and the tension was really good for those scenes. Every time they went out after something happens to Monday, it really did seem like they were all in danger, like constantly. And that was filmed really well, I thought. Yeah,
my one sort of like kind of like clinging nitpick for a lot of the movie is actually just a weird little thing where like all the bad guys, like the CAB, the Child Allocation Bureau, which is basically just like the Gestapo of this world for anyone who has more than one kid, like they know where all of the Noomies are pretty early on, and for some reason there's just large stretches of time where no one comes for them, and they still just hang around their house as if it's fine. I don't know, it was weird to me that it was a constant thing. And then every so often there'd be like a moment where, okay, they're gearing up to come in and it's like it's going to be an action scene there. I'm like, yeah, okay, but why now? Why not? Why not hours ago? Like, I don't know. It was just weird disconnect.
I would agree. Also, the thugs, for some reason, there are like some side characters that we get to know that are our baddies that are hunting down the sisters. But then, like, the one guy has this sidekick who's just this, like, beautiful model who has 0 lines, but she's in a significant amount of the film. Like, I hated that she was there. Is she just there to, like, we also have a beautiful woman as a bad guy, but she has no lines. She has no reason for being there.
Yeah.
And there's a couple characters like that. There's also, there's a guy in the, where we see the cryo chamber area later on in the film. There's like 2 doctors working in there, and there's a guy who just is an extra, basically. Like, he has a whole scene with with Noomi, and there's no dialogue exchanged at all from him. It's just so strange that they don't give them dialogue. Like, it feels like you're watching a high school play.
It never stuck out to me. The reason why I hesitated so much when you brought up the sexy bad woman who has no lines is that I was actually just trying to think of who you were talking about because I couldn't think of who it was. Which probably just...
She looks like a ballerina in the middle of this, like, SWAT team.
Yeah, which probably just proves your point that she's kind of, like, redundant. Like,
yeah,
because...
she's there every time we see, like, the one guy who's super intense and is going after the blonde one. Like, she's always there with him, but she has 0 lines. I don't know. I hated it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So not perfect. There's nitpicks. There's things to sort of pull it down from being like a great movie. But I did like this is something that me and Tim bring up recently in streams quite a bit. Is that it's actually okay for there to be a movie that's just good and no more, because so many movies that come out are not even close to being good. They're
That is true.
They're sludge. They're trash. They're this and that and. I feel like overall I had a decent time with this. It's 2 hours long. I don't think it overstays.
Pretty fast paced.
Yeah, I don't think it overstays its welcome too much. The first like half hour, almost for the most part, is actually mostly flashbacks, kind of explaining the childhoods of the various Noomies and the lessons they had to learn. And a lot of it makes sense. A lot of it kind of adds up and makes for some interesting moments. Yeah, it's it's not bad. It's yeah.
I would agree.
I don't know what else to kind of say to sum up without spoilers. So I guess we're at the point where we're going to move into that area, as it were. So, and of course, I have completely misplaced my sticky note once again. Every time I restart my computer, it goes away. It's not supposed to. All right.
You don't know by memory?
I probably do, but I worry that I'm going to mess it up.
Okay.
Anyway, onto the monitor that's turned off. Okay, I'm just going to do it from memory. All right. Thank you to our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Alison M4 Dice, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Tyler Hess, Zammer Jammer, and Board Now. Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. I did it. Yeah. There's definitely going to be at least another 1 or 2 next month, so I'm going to struggle.
Are you predicting this, or...?
Well, no, because like they sign up for that tier and they don't get the credit until they've been charged for the next month. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool down. Thanks, guys. And gals.
So, yes. They're all $20 patrons, of course. That's what makes them producers. $20 or above. But you don't have to be a $20 patron or above, do you, Tara?
Why no? If you like our show and want to support us and support the channel, watch it grow, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to a back catalog of movie reviews that are not available on YouTube. So if you're wondering where the B-movie classics like The Transfer Saga or The Philadelphia Experiment 2 is, then check out that Patreon link. Thank you very much. And if you donate as much as $5 per month, you will get to be able to vote on what we do once a month, and maybe you would have gotten the movie you wanted us to watch.
I feel like every time you do that Patreon plug, you always leave off Time Cop when you're saying what the bonus movies are that you can access, and I feel like that is the highest profile one. That's the one that gets them in.
What are you talking about? You make fun of me all the time for bringing up the same 3 movies: Time Cop, Judge Dredd, and Trancers.
Yeah, you still say Trancers. If you're going to keep one of those,
because Trancers is still going.
I mean, okay, that's fair. That's fair. I feel like you're, I guess, overestimating how many people in the audience are like, oh, Trancers? Oh, I got to hear what they think of Trancers.
It's a saga.
Starring Tim
I brought
Thomerson.
up Philadelphia Experiment 2, so
True.
That's there now.
True. Okay.
That was a fun one.
That is the Patreon plug portion of the episode. Brought to you by Tara. All right. Full spoilers then from this point on for What Happened to Monday. We shall start, as we always do, at the beginning, because we're not Memento. So
I'm not gonna say it.
That was a movie joke. Say what?
I know. Is that the one where Guy Pearce plays the bad guy?
Oh, shut up! I was not waiting to say that. Oh my god. Oh, you know how like killing your father's patricide and killing your mother's matricide? What's the word for killing your podcast co-host? Podcaside?
Well, it's one less podcast to worry about, so probably a good deed.
Oh, that's not. Don't turn that.
There's
like
too
that.
many podcasts.
There's not too many podcasts. Well, there's not too many podcasts featuring me. despite rumors to the contrary. There's never
All
enough
right.
of me.
Let's get the show going.
All right. Yes. I can't believe you did that again.
Spoiler section. Off the hook.
I can't believe your running joke on this show is becoming spoiling the ending of Memento.
I never spoiled it.
What
You confirmed that was the case.
What are you going to do to Christopher Nolan next? Watch Dunkirk on a phone?
Oh, that's a great movie. That's his best movie.
Okay, now you're just insulting every other Christopher Nolan fan.
I know.
All right, so yeah, there's some flashbacky stuff at the start of them like setting up the world and saying why they have to do this child act or whatever. But the interesting stuff though, which I'll just sort of tackle in sequential order rather than the others in the movie because I can't remember when it was jumping back and forth, but is all the stuff with the kids, where we see Willem Dafoe show up at the hospital and his daughter like died giving birth. I mean, 7 of the bloody things. I mean,
yeah, I think maybe we could talk about the concept a little bit more because I do think it's an interesting science fiction concept.
Sure, go.
It's sort of like the anti-Monsanto film. I don't know if you're familiar with Monsanto, but it's like it's a GMO product company here. They basically make like grains and seeds for so that you can like do mass production of, and they have a lot of resilience to pests and Roundup, so you can just spray generic Roundup and it'll kill the weeds and the pests, but the crop won't die. So there's a bit of like a monopoly of Monsanto because of that, because we have so many crops here in order to feed livestock, by the way, not humans. I'm not saying anymore. But so this movie, this core concept is that this type of GMO will provide us food because they'll have like disease resistant crops that will grow. But as a result of people eating them, there are side effects such as our own crops will grow inside of us. Like children are now twins up to septuplets, maybe more, I'm not sure. Like there's no such thing as like a single child anymore because of this, which I think is a kind of a cool science fiction concept. You know, they try to fix the problem that we created, and that fix is contributing to the problem, even though it does come up with a solution. You know, it's just like one thing triggers the next. It's a spiral.
Yeah. No, I mean it made me think of GPG a lot. There was a lot of parallels to that movie. Not so much in the way it obviously functions, because obviously ZPG was not.
But scarcity of food and
but it
overpopulation and people walking around in smog everywhere, pollution.
It wasn't an action movie, is what I was trying to say though. Whereas this is an action thriller with people having gunfights and all. And
there's no Oliver Reed in it. No.
I mean, who do you prefer, Oliver Reed or Noomi?
That's a tough one. I don't think Noomi would have been good in Gladiator, but maybe.
And his role, no, probably not. But like, I mean, could you see 7 Oliver Reeds doing this?
I might watch that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I mean, if you give me 7 Matt Berries, I might. I might get into.
Yeah, that movie would get very sexual very quickly. It would not be a surprise.
Yeah, we never really talked about the spoiler free. Not that. I mean, it's not, obviously later we're going to talk about what's actually happening, but what they claim is happening in the movie is that if they do find siblings, they're cryogenically freezing them until they can wake them up at a later date when the world has been fixed because of their strict rules. Of course, later on we find out they're actually just incinerating them and getting rid of them.
Yeah, that part wasn't really a shocker to me.
Nah,
but...
it was very the cake is a lie. You know, it kind of it made sense. But you know, I mean, credit to them for having like the scene where they actually put a little girl in the thing and then see her like be, you know, I mean, she's not awake, but you know, she, you know, but of course, as soon as you see the kid happen to the kid when she's asleep, and it's kind of shocking. It's like, oh, one of these villains is getting in there awake. I can't wait to see it. We're going to see them screaming and banging in the window and be like, no, let me.
I'm pretty sure when it does happen, because it does.
Yeah.
That you could still hear her screaming after she turns to ashes.
Dramatic license. They wanted the effect, the drama of.
I mean, she was screaming for a long time.
Yeah. But hey.
Her lungs definitely were burned.
It was an echo. It was an after image of the voice. Now it's just passed on.
Okay.
To hell. So so it's, that's kind of sets up what it is. But all the examples we see of the people being taken though are kids, right? You know, that's the examples we see in the street. We don't, you know, it kind of becomes a curiosity. It's like, what do they do with adults though? Like when if they do find the Noomies, like they're going to have 6 of these adults, and it is kind of raised a little bit later on when Glenn Close is like, we can't let the public know that somehow this has slipped through us, and there's like 7 of these identical adult, like,
for,
you know,
30
siblings.
years.
Yeah. It makes them look quite bad, so they don't want it to be like publicly exposed. They're actually trying to, you know, handle it on the down low so that everything's kind of shady and whatnot. But yeah, so it's all the stuff at the start with Willem Dafoe. I did roll my eyes a little bit because it has that moment where he decides to name them after the days of the week, and it kind of felt like the wink wink sees the movie title. You know, again, because he's like, well, there's 7 of them.
It's a catchy title though.
So no, I like the title. The movie title is good, but it's just he has this moment where he's looking at them and they're all in the little cribs, and he's just kind of like, well, there's 7 of them, so I'll call that one Monday, that one Tuesday, that one Wednesday. And I was like, all right, okay. I didn't really need the scene where he has the idea to call them the days of the week. It just, I felt a little bit silly in this sort of wink wink kind of way. But all the stuff with them as kids is kind of interesting. The idea that they're trained to like hide in this like secret compartment, because if anyone comes to the house, they have to like, you know, dive, and like only one of them can be seen at any given time. And it's not until the 6 or whatever it is where it's like, okay, now we're going to set up the Karen persona, and you know, 1 per day you'll get to leave the house and go to school and play outside and do all these things, but you can never go together. And at the end of every day you're going to come back and you're going to, like, you know, show the video feed that you've been carrying a little camera on you, and it'll show everyone everything, so that, you know, they're not caught off guard the next day, because everyone needs to know what's happened to everyone else when they've been out, so that
there's a nightly debriefing.
Yeah. Because otherwise someone will say something that they don't recognize, and they'll be suspicious, and so on and so on. So all that stuff is pretty funny. And it leads to obviously the big dark scene here, which is I think it's Thursday.
Yeah.
Falls off her skateboard or whatever when she's outside. And
when she's not supposed to be outside, she sneaks out.
Yeah. And the tip of her finger's hanging off. And basically it can't be saved. It's pretty good. Yeah, that's maybe the goriest part, just from a icky factor.
Yeah.
But he's like, okay, it can be saved. So then he looks around the hills. It's like, okay, Monday you're up first, and it sort of dawns on them what he's saying, that no, you all have to match. So if she's missing the tip of her index finger, all of you have to miss the tip of your index finger.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
No, it was good, because this was like, okay, this is how serious he's taking this. You know, I don't know what the solution to be otherwise would be. Like, well, the one missing the part of her finger always has to wear a glove. I don't know.
A prosthetic finger.
Thursday's glove day. I don't know. But like, yeah, so it's an interesting idea and kind of the sacrifice that they have to make. But I think some of the premise stuff though that's interesting is when they're talking to each other in this early stuff. But because we see like Sunday's out and she comes home and she speaks to the doorman and she comes in, and when they're all talking to each other, you get a sense of their personalities and you get some of the ideas that are brought up. Like, one of them says it'd be nice to actually have a relationship and not just have a one night stand, and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense that all of them can't really keep a relationship because they have to just be on their day.
They would have to share one guy.
Yeah, and that would be really weird. And obviously, whatever one actually is in love with the person would probably be very jealous that our 6 sisters are also spending time with them. So that's what I kind of appreciate when there's a science fiction concept like this, where they actually kind of thought about it and let's prod at the questions. Okay, what would happen because of this premise? And have them kind of explore that and talk about it. And the fact that they all have to like dress like the same person.
They all have, some of them have like the actual long black hair with the bangs and the ponytail, but most of them all just have the same wig.
No, I think it's only the one that has the exact hair. I mean, some of them have similar hair because it's still dark and long, but none of them have the bangs, I don't think.
Oh, okay. I thought Sunday and Monday had the same hair.
Nah, Sunday has more of a sort of shoulder length, like yeah, it's just shoulder length. Yes, because that's the thing. When they're in the house, when they're in the apartment, they all have to they all want to be as distinct as possible. It's kind of that thing where you see like twins want to make sure that they're very separate. They have different interests. They have different looks. So they all have different hair. They all have different personalities. They're all doing. And I was actually thinking, I was like, wait a minute. Didn't the ones who go out on Saturday and Sunday kind of luck out and that they never have to go to work? And don't get me wrong, the others only have to work 1 day a week, so it's not like they get 6 days a week off. It's not that bad, but still, Saturday and Sunday kind of lucked out if they're working a Monday to Friday job here.
Definitely. And Saturday is kind of the party girl.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, which I guess worked out well. But or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe because she could only go out on Saturdays and that was party night, she just sort of became that as a result of that.
I can see that.
Yeah, okay.
And Sunday is the one who's got to get everything ready for the workday, so she's like the most matronly one.
Yep. Monday, who's the start of the work week, is the most ambitious and wants to do well at the job that they've got.
Tuesday's a stoner.
Wednesday's
she's the sporty one.
She's the sporty one. Thursday is
our main character.
Yeah, close to the main. Yeah, that's true. Friday's the nerdy one. Saturday's the party girl. Yeah. There you go.
Pretty distinct.
Yeah. I mean, there is it takes maybe a while to settle in exactly who's who at a glance because you're just kind of getting to know them. But it does actually all click into place once it's been going for a little bit. So, yeah, that's fair is fair. But of course, things really kick off when Monday goes out to work, and we see her kind of flirt with the guard at the sort of checkpoint because they all have these bracelets that they scan.
Yeah, he's flirting with her. She's just like smiling, like she's okay with it, but she's not really flirting back.
Yeah, well, I know what comes later in the movie, so I'm looking at it from like okay, why is she not flirting back kind of thing. So
when I watched it for the first time, well, I only watched it once, but like when I watched it,
so how many times did you watch it?
I skimmed through it a second time before we started because I watched it a few days ago. But when I watched it, I thought he's being kind of creepy to her, like he's being kind of gross actually, and maybe it's because he's got this position of power, and he's using that over her.
Actually, my thought though, before you say what's actually going on here, my thought was that like one of the other days flirts with them, and that's why he's flirting like this. This is why he's like feeling confident enough to like flirt
he
this
does
much.
say like, Monday is my day to do this job.
Yeah,
which
that's
he doesn't
true.
like. But he, I thought he was being just kind of gross with her, but she does smile when she leaves. So there's no implication that like she's involved with him in any way, just that he's really interested in her and he sees her here every Monday.
Yeah, clearly she wants all this to be secretive, and it makes sense why, because all of she's filming everything right now. Like everything she's doing right now has to be watched by the others later. so she has to
Yeah.
kind of not like give anything away. And obviously, we're in spoilers here. The twist later on, of course, is that Mundy's actually a villain and is turned on them all. So, but like, yeah, so
She's a villain, but she has kind of a reason to be.
there's a kind of a noble motivation behind things.
It's not 100% selfish.
No, it's selfish to a point, but it's not.
Yeah, but you can kind of see her like convincing herself that this is the right decision by giving it
It's
having to talk herself into it.
There's a lot of interesting things about it, but we'll go back to obviously that later. I did think that it was if I have a complaint about the actual inciting kind of like Mondays went missing, I did think it was kind of like almost uneventful what she was doing before she goes missing. Like there's I was expecting some kind of like ambiguous like what was that scene?
Well, there was it just kind of happens, or she's just like a blip on their, I don't know, bracelet tracker thing goes off, and then realize they don't know where she is.
Because the Nerdy one Friday, she's like has the computers all up and she's like tracking everyone, and she's.
But the last time we see her, we know that she's up for a promotion, and her coworker Jerry is in the elevator with her, saying, "I know your secret." So there is some tension there.
It's a little bit, but I felt there was going to be more of like a, she might be in danger in this scene kind of thing, and then it'll cut. But it was kind of like she was still in the office. It was still like a non-moment, and it's because it kind of deflates a little bit because she goes to the office on her own. It was kind of an odd like thing where I was like, because when it cut to the others, I was like, oh wait, she's went missing. Oh, well, okay, we're at that point. Okay. I didn't feel like it built up to like something happening to her, which was good. And obviously, we find out later that like this is not. She's in on it. She's like the bad guy. She's working with the villains, which is a fine twist. There's a moment later on where I think when you realize that she has this secret relationship with the security guy, because he shows up at the apartment. It's the party girl that stays out in the living room and everyone else hides, and he's coming up to her and he's been very intimate. And he even goes to choke her at one point, and this is kind of the moment where you realize that this isn't actually creepy, bizarrely, because she sort of like reacts kind of scared to him choking her, and then he sort of pulls his hand and goes, "Oh shit, sorry, I thought you were into that." And it's this very genuine kind of, "No, I was doing that because I thought you wanted me to do that." That was that's your
that
thing.
we're role playing here.
Yeah. So they find out that not only does Monday have this secret relationship, although they don't know it's Monday yet. That comes later because she actually has to get him to say, "Oh, what day of the week do we usually hang out on?" But she because she goes into the other room and says, "Oh, I think he wants to F me." And she's like, "Yeah, no shit." And they basically send her on a mission, like, "Yeah, go and do it, and get some intel."
Well, I mean, before then, she was always talking about how she has sex with random guys every Saturday night or something, but turns out she's all talk.
Yeah, she's never done it before, which also kind of really makes sense. It makes sense that even more than half of 7 would probably be uncomfortable with just having one night stands. So because they've never had a chance to actually build a relationship, they've just never went down any of those paths. It makes sense. And she goes with them, and it is kind of and we've kind of skipped ahead because we've already lost like 2 of them by this point, but we'll go back. We're talking about this relationship part of it because it's kind of interesting. Where so she ends up with him at his place, and other stuff's been happening, and at one point we just cut to like them like naked, and he's going down on her, and she's like, it's this like bird's eye shot of her, and she's completely naked. His head's covering her her crotch, but like it's definitely
he's in there.
It's definitely raunchier than you're expecting.
Yes. Very generous lover.
As much as I would love to move on, unfortunately, there's a couple of details here that have to be addressed. One, that she's kind of just going along with this because he's expecting it, and she's also kind of like been sent on a mission for recon. So honestly, the concept of consent here is very weird to me on a number of ways. Firstly, from her, in the sense that, of course, she's kind of going along with it, but she feels kind of uncomfortable. Of course, she reaches a certain point where she's never had an orgasm, or I mean, I assume so, and she kind of gets into it and is like, all right, F me, right? She sort of like gives in to the passion halfway through.
Which, by the way, also, okay, she's probably going to die after this.
Okay, sure, this is her one
her gift
moment in paradise, yeah. But I also think there's a shady bit of consent here the other way around as well, because he's not actually with the person he thinks he's with. So I would argue that is unconsensual. I mean, I don't know exactly what to call it, because I mean, don't worry, I'm sure it's probably happened in the world where twins kind of like snuck in and said, hey, yeah, I'm your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, right? But I have to imagine that legally speaking, tricking someone into thinking you're someone you're not in order to gain consent makes the consent somewhat null and void, which is a bit of a sketchy area, I would say.
But I think she's also doing it for survival reasons.
I'm not saying she's evil for this necessarily. I'm just saying that there's a lot of murkiness that comes out of this.
Yeah, all right. I can't imagine that he's really that upset after he finds out.
Well, that's the thing. I think it'd be interesting to explore what he thinks of that in particular, but the movie actually never raises it. Once he finds out that there's different siblings, it never really has a moment where he stops and goes, oh, wait a minute. I had sex with the wrong one. You know, that would actually be an interesting reaction to get from him, but it never does. So I'm docking more points here for kind of ignoring a character beat where, you know, does he feel like he's being like violated in a weird way that he never predicted? You know, what does he feel by this?
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. It's an interesting question, but the movie doesn't even bother to really think about it or let alone answer it. So
could have been an interesting character beat for someone who sort of becomes a main character after this.
Yeah, it does actually. He kind of becomes like because after this point, there's only a few of the Karens left, right? Like after this, because ultimately at the end of the movie, only two survive. You got two that survive. Plus, you've got Monday, who turned out to be like working with the bad guy, right? Bad guy being Glenn Close. So, yeah. So, by this point, it kind of becomes like a trio of them trying to get into the base, and it's him and Thursday and which day?
Oh, Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday? No,
yeah.
Not Tuesday. Tuesday. Oh, no, it's Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday's not dead yet. She's just had her eye pulled out. But we've skipped over a bunch of stuff. We're actually way too far in the plot right now.
Yeah. Do we have to go back?
We do, because I want to talk about the fight scene.
Okay.
Yeah. Which also, come and enjoy the podcast where Tara's desperate to leave as quickly as possible and is not interested in actually talking about the interesting parts of the movie.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. The fight scene's pretty good.
Tara came here today to crack one joke about the sex scene and then just leave as quickly as humanly possible, apparently.
Yep. My work is done.
Yes, but yeah, I went because when the SWAT team first started coming for it, because they nab Tuesday, when Tuesday's out trying to like get some information about what happened to Monday, very quickly she's like picked up in a van by a generic white villain man who's the sort of the main dude who's after them for most of the movie, working for Glenn Close. And we have like a SWAT
His
team.
name is Joe. Could there be a more generic white man name?
I don't know, Kevin, I guess.
Well, Joe is the generic white man in a van.
I mean, I
with
guess.
his ballerina assistant.
Well, what about
Zakuya?
What about John though? Because John Doe, I'd say John's the more common.
Okay.
Because John Doe.
Sure.
I don't know if Jane's actually as common as John. I think they just wanted a name that sounded like it went with John quite well for Jane Doe.
Well, we live in a patriarchy, so.
We do. No, I was not expecting such a political response to that like observation, but sure.
I'm just kidding. I mean, it's like half kidding.
I mean, no, we do. Definitely live in a patriarchy. That's not untrue.
Anyway, continue.
Yes. Did you catch the accent of the head of the SWAT team?
Is he a Scot?
He is Scottish. He is the worst type
I
of
knew it.
Scottish person. He is the hard man Scottish person who I think says you effing. Well, I don't even know what to do to soften the C word, but he drops a few C words, a few C bombs when he's in the fight with the various Noomies. And it's actually a pretty exciting little fight scene as they're kind of that's I got a good fun bit because they set up that they've got kind of Judge Dredd style guns where it only works for the person who's like sort of DNA's like or fingerprint at least is sort of designed to trigger it.
They have to like warm up before they can shoot.
Yeah, so there's a couple of fun little bits with that. Namely, in the bathroom, it's
Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday?
Short hair, athletic.
You're doing what? No, it's more medium length, I'm sure, in the bathroom. This is the problem when you have 7 characters played by the same person.
If it's the athletic one that's in like the sports bra, it's Wednesday.
No, I don't think it was her in the bathroom. Who gets the gun firing by cutting off the guys? No, that's later. Sorry. Oh no, I'm thinking of the later scene. No, I am. I'm mixing up my 2 action sequences. Yeah, this isn't the scene. This is the scene where they're throwing all sorts of things at the bad guys and like dropping fridges on them and all sorts. Although one of them does die. Like there's a sad beat at the end of this scene where one of them has
Yeah,
perished.
it was Sunday.
Yeah. So yeah, what happened to Sunday? This happened to Sunday.
Yeah.
So, but the later action scene though is when they send out. I think it must be Wednesday. Who's sent out to investigate this? It's the co-worker, yeah, that wanted to like reveal something because they suspect that he revealed that they were siblings, and it turns out that's not remotely what the case is. It's just something to do with some sort of bank account. It's nothing even related to what's going on with them. But she goes to her apartment and there's gunmen who just start shooting into the place. And there's a great
It's a cool scene where he's like drinking milk and then like the milk explodes and there's blood everywhere.
which I would argue is somewhat inspired by the first Lethal Weapon movie because there's a scene in that where Tom Skerritt, not Tom Skerritt, sorry. Oh my god, I can't believe I said Tom Skerritt. What's his face? The one with the mustache was in a bunch of B movies at that time period as well. Tom Atkins. He's drinking milk when he gets shot from the helicopter in Lethal Weapon. That's what I was trying to reference. But no, there's this really fun sequence where she's taking out one of the SWAT team guys who comes out of the building, and she basically cuts off his finger and then tapes it to her finger so she can like get the gun working. And the other SWAT members who are on the outside, they're sort of searching the apartment very slowly, are coming up to the door, and they're not like, they've got their guns up, but they're not like super on guard because they don't think that she could have a gun. They don't expect her to have a weapon like that. So they just sort of open the door, and she just sort of like grabs the gun, like just like mows them down.
Yeah.
Which honestly also felt kind of Judge Dredd to me a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
It reminded me of Rico and Judge Dredd with the, see when he goes to get the mech in the shop and Judge Dredd, and like the guy's like, oh, you can't only judges work with those guns, and he just picks it up and it like turns on, and he's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of that moment. Yeah, there you go. Her death though is she's getting chased around actually. There's a lot of her running around with like Friday on the comms talking to her, but this is happening at the same time that Blondie's having sex with Guardman. Adrian, that's his name.
Saturday and Adrian. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Getting it on.
But her death is that she has to jump. She ends up on the top of a building. She has to jump, and this is actually what the poster's based on, is that she has to jump from one building to the other. And she's like, I don't know if I can make this jump. And which reminds me, actually, there's a really funny laugh earlier on when she it's the same character, which when she's escaping the building after she's killed the SWAT team, the initial members. Then there's going to be more coming for her, and they're going to like blow up the apartment. And it's like, okay, how do I get out of here? And Fred's like, hey, there's a dumpster, outside this window that'll break your fall. And she jumps out the window and she lands in it, and we don't see her like, land in the inside of the dumpster. We just see from the outside of the dumpster, and it looks.
You just hear the thud.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's nothing in there. And then it cuts to the inside, and there's like one trash bag, and I was like, that was actually kind of funny. Like,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong,
Also, she should probably be dead.
Yeah, this turns it into a bit of a cartoon because she, I mean, at the very least, from the height she jumped, she should not be standing up. Never mind running.
No, she lands on her back.
Yeah. So, at the very least, she should be paralyzed. At the very least. Right? Never mind up and running from people. But she's on this roof and she's going to jump to this other building. And while she's mid-jump, white villain Manjo, comes out of the stairwell and shoots her while she's mid-jump. And she has this dramatic death falling between the two buildings. And then, of course, Blondie, Saturday, after she's done some research at Adrian's place, because Adrian's already left for work, SWAT team show up and kills her. So, we lose a couple of them pretty quickly here.
And then pretty instantly, the SWAT team or whatever shows up at the other people at Thursday and Fridays.
Yeah,
while they're at their apartment.
Yeah, they finally show up, despite the fact that they've been there for like a day and a half at this point.
Yeah, they could have been there for a while.
Yeah.
A lot earlier.
But hey, I'll let that slide. So as much as I'm sort of nitpicking some of these things, like, I mean, for the most part the action's fun, and for the most part their reactions to like all the various things that are happening are kind of entertaining. It's one of those movies where it feels like there's just all these little things where it's just slightly left of great, right? It's just slightly a little off, and here or there, and that way and this way. But yeah. So after this though, Friday basically commits suicide to like kill the SWAT team by blowing up the apartment, which saves Thursday. Thursday then goes and gets Adrian by gunpoint and sort of reveals to him, and he sort of figures out that they're sisters, and then they form a plan to go and try and get Monday. They find Tuesday instead with an eye missing, which was important because the SWAT team that showed up at the start, like 30 minutes into the movie, had an eye for the door scanner. So
that's why.
Is everything all right, Tara? You seem to be falling off your chair a little bit.
Yeah, it's my kitty cat. It's I don't know if you can hear him purring. He's just choosing the wrong time to snuggle.
Yeah. I know the feeling. Yes. So yeah, they go in and they have this realization that Monday's the evil one, and of course at this point you're kind of like, okay, there's going to be a scene where we're going to have like two of them fighting each other, because basically Thursday dresses up as Monday, because there's a running thing throughout the movie where Monday they make several references to the fact that she's the most like the person that they're supposed to be, where she's actually like, she has the hair, she has the outfits, this is how she actually looks and acts.
Yeah. They have a character who is Karen that they all play, but Monday is that character.
Yeah. So it's also around here we get the scene where we see the kid being cremated, and this is the thing. So Adrian's kind of on their side because he wants to save Monday because he's in love with Monday. Like, he's genuinely in love. Like, this is the thing. This character went from like feeling like he's a bit of a
perv.
Yeah, I was going to go above that, like, because of the way he's kind of coercing her into being searched that first time he sees her. It's kind of like full on harassment. Yeah. And then the way he comes over, it feels like, okay, he's got some sort of unhealthy sex life with Monday. There's been this secret thing. To this point here, when he sees these kids being killed, it's like he's fully on board of like in the team, like to the point where he's like pretending to like capture them and bring them in and like then fighting with them, on their side. Yeah. To the point where he becomes like maybe one of the most sympathetic characters in the whole movie.
He's very likable, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, once he gets going, so that's actually a really cool twist that I did not see coming, that he was going to end up being one of the more sympathetic characters.
Yeah.
By the end.
Me neither.
So I mean, that's fair play. I mean, more sympathetic than Monday, because Monday because she's not involved in all these choices she's made to do all these bad things. He's kind of like almost a bystander to it. Because it's worth mentioning earlier on, after he's had sex with Saturday, like they sort of talk about what he does, and she kind of says, "Oh, do you feel okay about putting them in cryo sleep?" He's like, "Hey, well, it means they get to wake up in a better world," and
Yeah, and he brings up, this is a better option for them, because if you've ever been to the slums and seen the areas that I've seen where people are really struggling, then you would know that this is not the life for them right now.
Wait, are you telling me the dystopian world that we're in, it's the poor people who mostly suffer from the rules that are made? Shocking.
What?
Shocking.
I know.
That never happens.
I mean, even Glenn Close, her final speech was like, if you want to have a kid, if I'm elected ruler, leader, president, whatever they have in the future, then I will make sure it's a mandate that people who want to have a child have to prove that they can afford to have a child, and maybe will even allow siblings if you have enough money. Like, okay, so only rich people.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, Mundy's made this deal because she wants to be the true person, the one true Karen, as it were.
Yeah, she says she was the firstborn, and if, you know, Willem Dafoe had just followed the rules, she would have had this life where she could have had, you know, a husband and a family and a career that she's great at, and like, this could have been her, you know.
Yeah. And there's a kind of dark sort of like biblical thing here of her willing to sacrifice, like knowing what they're doing, like sacrificing her 6 sisters, who she's supposed to be closer to than anyone, because that's who she spent her whole life with. And, you know, obviously the ultimate reveal after, you know, there's been a bit of a fight between them, and basically the big end game here is that they reveal to the world that they've recorded the footage of the cremation, and they show it like live to everyone. All these rich people in the crowd are all witnessing this child being burned alive, and
all
like,
these 20-year-old models and hipster guys.
Yes, but the world has now seen it. And Glenn Close turns around and goes, "Look, they didn't suffer. They didn't suffer. Promise you didn't suffer." So...
Yeah, I mean, if it's done humanely, right, then what's the big deal?
Is there a point you're trying to make right now?
There is no such thing as humane slaughter. It's an oxymoron.
I don't know. I'm not talking about animals. I'm with you on the animals, but I think some humans. I think there's some humane ways to do it. All right, okay. Dark joke or two. All right, I'm moving on. We just recorded a Twilight Zone before this, and it was like some of the darkest jokes I've ever cracked in a Twilight Zone review.
I know. You should really comb through that one carefully when you edit it.
Well, actually, Joe, that's what this movie needs, or what this world needs, is that instead of cremating under the guise of like cryosleep, all they need to do is have the grands try and convince the extra siblings to take care of it themselves.
There you go.
All right, if you want to understand, I'm not going to explain it. If you want to understand that reference, go check out the Twilight Zone episode review for Long Distance Call. Right, so basically though, as the you know, Mundy's has been killed, and it's a fairly dramatic moment. The way the gunshot kind of happens, and you know, because even Adrian has a sort of heroic moment here where he jumps in and stops them from killing, because he actually kills the Joe. You know, he shoots him from across the room. Yeah,
why is he allowed to do that and not get like arrested for it? Because Joe shoots a woman who has a gun because he's some type of law enforcement, and then Adrian shoots Joe for shooting a woman who had a gun pointed at a political figure.
At least in the heat of the moment, Adrian is also a person of the law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so it doesn't look necessarily that weird at first glance. Secondly, I think the entire like regime has just crumbled before their eyes, so no one's necessarily thinking about the lawful or unlawful thing that's happening in front of them. I mean, it's a fair point to bring up. I'm not trying to poo-poo it. I'm trying to use the logic within the movie to give you an answer.
I thought it was a bit strange that nobody did anything, that he was okay to go after.
Yeah.
Because really, Joe was just doing his job.
That's fair.
As a security guy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, basically she reveals that, you know, Mundy as she's dying is that she did this for, you know, for them, and she sort of like motions to her stomach, and it's like, oh wait, she's pregnant. So
yeah, adds a little bit of empathy to it.
Yeah, it's the idea that she wanted to make sure her kids could survive, and like, you know, she didn't want her kids to like be hid in the house, or the kid to be hid in the house. Although we find out later it's twins. Well, okay, so I have to ask a thing, right? If a mother dies while pregnant, and like, I assume if it's late enough they can sort of save the babies, but she's not even showing yet. She's still wearing like skinny tight dresses.
It's the future.
Like, and yet we cut to a scene where there's these two like fetuses in a tank, and they're like, you know, almost baby sized. Mm-hmm. And the survivors, which is what, Thursday and Tuesday. Tuesday's only got one eye. And one of them's like, no, I'm now. Oh, what was the name? She's like, picked a name for herself. She's not
Terry.
There you go, Terry. Almost Tara. She didn't quite go for it though.
It would have been a better name.
Oh.
No offense to all the Terrys watching.
Yes, no offense, but she says really mean things about you when we're not recording.
No, I think Tara is just a better name.
I'm like, oh, stupid bitch, he's named Terry. That's what she said. Tara's words, not mine.
It does sound like me.
But the other one's like, no, I'm going to actually be Karen. I'm going to take the name Karen. So, they have this happy ending, and I assume they're going to help Adrian raise their nieces and nephews. I mean, I don't
Offspring.
know. It wasn't clear, what gender they were, but I think the ending is solid enough. It kind of ends with Glenn Close like speaking to the press as she goes into a courtroom. She's going for her trial.
Mm-hmm. She brings up a fair point of, like, I just wanted the future generations to have the world that we lived in that was plentiful and great, and now everyone's going to struggle. Like, you're going to have, you just got rid of the person who was willing to make the hard decision for you. Clearly it's the wrong decision, but life will be harder now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's honestly, the movie's full of pretty interesting ideas, and it's generally fairly enjoyable to watch. I think obviously some of the things we've nitpicked at are the problems that are there. Some logical.
The action's good.
But the one thing that I would say though that I think is maybe a bit of a fault with it is the tone is a little bit back and forth. And what I mean by that is that some of my most enjoyable parts of this movie are when it just feels like it's a fun movie. Like see when Wednesday is like on the run, she jumped out the window in the dumpster, which is a funny moment in and of itself. But when she's on the run in the comms and she's like getting frustrated with Friday because she's not there to tell her directions, because she's also at the same time trying to work with Saturday, who's looking into the computer at Adrian's, and there's all this stuff. Oh, we've got a situation here, and there was like a lot of fun banter back and forth that started to make them feel like a fun team. And I'm like, oh, I could almost go for a series of these sisters working together to do stuff.
And that's a credit to Noomi's performance as well. Like she never like slips up or makes it seem like these people are not talking to each other. Like it's very convincing.
Yeah, it's all on her because she's playing every part. One of the other things that I thought I was going to complain about, like halfway through, is that Willem Dafoe's scenes just sort of disappear after like 30 minutes, and then I thought, man, it's kind of weird. I mean, I know he's obviously probably not around anymore because he's much older and died at some point, when they were growing up, but I thought it was weird that he never had some sort of final beat with him that felt like his send-off. But it did come eventually later when it flashed back again, and it was after the whole finger thing. One of them catches him crying, and he's like, I'm just trying to do the right thing for you.
It's
like,
Monday, yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, yeah, it's a sweet scene. So, but yeah, I guess, it gets to a point where it almost has to turn into a very serious movie because of the subjects it's dealing with. Mm-hmm. But I almost like to add its most when it was being a really fun action movie. Maybe a massaging of exactly what tone they wanted to be more consistent might have been also something to improve it. But honestly, though, I mean, I didn't have that boredom that I usually have with a lot of Netflix movies where it feels like it's just kind of spinning its wheels and it's just kind of dull. It never felt dull. So
no, not at all. It still seems kind of, maybe it's just a tone thing, but it still kind of comes off as a goofy film sometimes. Mm-hmm. But when and other times it's supposed to be like really serious, so it's not great, but I don't even know if it's a movie that I would like recommend. It's more of like, it's fine. Like if you're looking for a science fiction film that you haven't seen yet and you're doing laundry, like check it out. But it's not like something I say you have to see this movie. It's a gem.
Sure. It's not good enough to be called a gem, but it's definitely good enough to be called pretty watchable. And if you like science fiction, I'd say it's probably worth watching. It's worth watching for the ideas and But it's not a perfect movie, and yeah, maybe it is something that you put on when you're doing something else. But it's, but I almost feel like
it's still compelling.
yeah, but that almost feels too harsh to say it that way, though. If it's in this kind of, I mean, I guess we'll get to it with the ratings here, like exactly where we place it, but it's in this kind of awkward ground, because I know what I'm giving it, but I'm going to make Tara rate it first, because I always do.
Okay. You now?
Yeah, let's just not tell you what you had. No.
Not really. I mean, I was already summing up my thoughts. I do think that that Noomi is incredible in the film. Like she really does deserve, to be a leading woman. Like she's great at playing 7 of them in one film.
Oh yeah, I've seen her in a lot of good roles. There was a movie with her and Colin Farrell from like 2012, 2013. I think it was something. I think I own it in Blu-ray actually. I can't remember the name of it. It's not going to come to me, I don't think. But it was a really good little thriller. And they played neighbours, and they kind of ended up helping each other. And he's like in this criminal underworld. But it ended up in a really good little thriller. Unfortunately, I can't for the life of me remember what it was called. But it was around that time. But she was really good in that, because I remember that stuck out to me at the time because I'd only seen her in the Dragon Tattoo movie, and that was Swedish, right? That was a foreign language film.
Well,
so it was
I've never seen that.
It was interesting seeing her in a English speaking film, and I've seen her in tons of those now because she's been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think I saw her in was Prometheus, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
And I saw the Sherlock Holmes film. I don't think I would have noticed her so much in that film.
Yeah, I don't even remember her being in that, to be honest. But
she was in the sequel.
I've happily forgotten everything that I ever knew about those movies because they're bad.
Okay. I don't remember if they're bad or not.
Was that too much of a hot take?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty. I think I've heard that before, that people think those movies are bad. I think I remember having a good time at the theater, but maybe they are not very good.
Yeah, I can't see this movie on my shelf. Oh wait, no, Dead Man Down. That's what it's called. Found it. Dead Man Down.
All right, add that to the list of Noomi films to watch.
Oh yeah, it's not sci-fi. It's not a movie for this show, but I enjoyed it at the time.
Yeah, so she's really great in the film, and I think it's very watchable. It's very compelling. The action keeps the pacing going at a pretty strong, and it is some really good choreographed scenes for fights, especially when one person's playing 7 characters, or at least multiple characters in the fight scenes.
Yeah, I like that 2 of them are actually quite physically capable, so they're doing proper fighting, and then the others are just kind of like throwing things at them or stabbing them as best they can, or something like that.
Yeah, or mostly just trying to help out the others. It's pretty good. Like, I wouldn't say like rush out and watch it, but it's definitely not bad. I like the science fiction concepts. It's just there's a lot of things in it I find just a little bit weak. Unfortunately, like just the overall look of the film and the way Glenn Close is shot just doesn't look good for some reason. Just a lot of the extras really stand out to me.
Actually, on the subject of the look of the film, I did feel that there was kind of a lackluster approach to like what the future looks like, where it felt like they were just kind of doing as little as humanly possible. It's just,
let's just show a lot of people in a really small crowded space a lot. There's lots of that, and that's
the cars that the bad guys were driving around in were a little bit futuristic, but it wasn't to like any great extent.
Not really. They look like minivans that would have been painted matte black. Really.
I said slightly.
Yeah. Yeah, the future world, it doesn't really have much of a design. There's some future tech, but like you said, it's sort of borrowed from other films.
There's like a laser gun that heals wounds. Like that's like one of the few things that pops up.
And the final scene with Glenn Close, where she meets her comeuppance, like it's basically the same as Minority Report. It's the same plot. But anyway.
Oh yeah, when the video plays behind her, yeah, it's the exact same scene. Yeah, you're right. It is. It totally is.
But I mean, not that that's like a like a terrible thing. It's just we just watched it not that long ago.
I think I like this one slightly more, but
I like Max von Sydow, but that one was also pretty ridiculous. This one's more justified.
I mean the movie as a whole. I didn't mean that scene specifically,
but anyway, I'm going to give the film a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I was pretty confident what I was giving it. I don't think I've changed after talking about it for any great length of time. That is, I'm going to actually slightly higher than you, go with a 6.5. I think it comes really close to being just called good. It becomes so close, but it misses the mark just a little bit, in a lot of different ways, a lot of little different ways, for the most part. I mean, some of the complaints we've had are a little bit more, important, but for the most part, it's just all these little things that kind of added up to. It just misses the mark and never quite. But it gets so close. There's moments during the fights and stuff where I'm like, I'm really starting to get into this, and then it's like,
I agree.
No. I guess what it feels like, and I guess this makes sense in a modern context because it's a Netflix movie. It was made for Netflix, but it feels like a good direct-to-video movie, right? This is the sort of thing I expect from a good direct-to-video movie from the 90s, where not perfect, not great, but there's a lot of things in it I like, and overall I'm not mad that I watched it.
Sure. Yeah.
So, well, I guess means I'm comparing it to Trancers, 2.
Well, Trancers 2.
Trancers 2 is the best one. Yeah, Trancers 2 is good. Yeah, I like Trancers 2. But anywho, so that's our ratings of what happened to Monday. So before I tell you what's coming next week, I'm going to get Tara to do her pose for the thumbnail. So yeah, you two guys. So make sure the top of your head's not cut off. And I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1 and say pause. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, pause.
Get it?
Very good. Very good. Missing the finger. Very good. All right. So what is coming next time? I can tell you next time we're going a little bit more cerebral. Well, I think we are. I mean, I've not seen it, so I'm kind of making a leap in logic here. But we're actually going to do Upstream Color, which comes from the same creator as Primer. So very interesting.
That guy had a pretty strong entry film as writer, director, and star. So
yeah,
is he doing it again this time?
I have no idea what to expect from Upstream Color. I've not seen it. You've not seen it, right?
Don't even know what it's about.
Yeah. So we're going to dive in, we're going to find out, and hopefully come out on the other side with some idea of what we just watched, which may be asking too much of the follow-up to Primer, but... Should I
bring some notes? Or something to write with?
I think notes, a diagram, maybe photographs with the red string attaching.
A physics professor.
Yeah. That might be a good idea. So that's what's coming next time on the show. Of course, what always helps us if you like the content and you want to keep it coming, let us see that you love it and you like it, and like the video on YouTube. Really important. Lets more people find us, so please do. As there's commenting down below. In fact, if you've made it this far in the video, I should have done this a little bit earlier. I like to try and give them the code word right before we get to the outro stuff, because I feel like that's the moment. That's the moment where some people just shut it off, even though there's usually some good jokes in the outro, so you should always watch the very end. But so if you made it this far, put the word generous in the comments.
I like it.
So, oh, bet. So do that. If you let us know you got this far. You can also, of course, get us on the Twitters at the Ace Podcast. We mentioned Patreon earlier. Of course, if you want to support us financially, get some bonuses and keep the content coming. Tara, would you like to recommend any other content from Male Fuzz TV?
Why, sure. Let's see. Well, if you like science fiction, you probably really like Star Trek. And guess what? Peter and Connor are reviewing Star Trek: The Next Generation Season 3. So you can check out what they think of Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2 now. Check it out. Huh?
Well, technically we're on Season 4 now.
Oh, Season 4, yeah.
Yeah. We just started Season 4. We literally just recorded Season 4 Episode 1 earlier today. So.
Yeah, and they've also done all of the original series, and they're working their way season by season through the series. So, yeah, watch along with them. And I think they're watching it for the first time, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, I'd seen some of the original series before, but not. I think I'd seen a little bit of Next Gen as well, but I'm past that point. I'm way past that point now. Like everything that was new. So, yeah. There you go. So that has been the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I believe this has actually been a notable number as well. This has been episode 75. So, yeah, us.
Yay.
Huh?
We did it.
Yeah, episode 75.
Once we get to 100, we can stop forever.
That's not happening.
What?
I never agreed to that.
I thought this was just our 100 year, or no, 100 year, 100 movie journey.
I mean, I like
And
your
then we have to
commitment.
rank them all.
I like your commitment, but I don't think I'm going to live to 129. So, not without some serious cybernetic implants and other aids. Maybe we'll get there in our lifetimes, I don't know. But yeah, that has been the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching science fiction, guys. And computer, add salsa.
I am the plan.